I sat rigid outside the committee room, my violin case upright at my feet. The rain outside had turned Avenida Cordoba into a river, little streams pooling on the yellowed floor tiles by the baseboard. I watched the water move, the quiet hiss of drizzle merging with distant footsteps, a cough behind the frosted glass. My thumb pressed into the pad of my left hand, still tingling where the strings had cut just hours ago. A voice called sharply, "Lucia Carrizo." I stood. 3 people looked up as I entered, all seated behind battered desks with folders and half-drunk mugs of coffee. My shoes left dark marks on the tile. "Miss Carrizo, thank you for waiting." The head examiner, Maestro Gomez, didn't meet my eyes, shuffling some papers. The other 2 glanced over my file, the one I'd completed 6 agonizing months before. "You played Mendelssohn's Violin Concerto, yes?" the woman asked, pinched and pale. "Yes, ma'am." She sighed, exchanged a look with Gomez, who finally looked up at me. His face was sharp and theatrical, old but commanding. He tapped his pen, the sound dull in the silent room. "Your technique is diligent," he said softly, "but it lacks a flame. Mendelssohn needs more. You are precise, but you don't risk enough." It felt rehearsed. The old man at their side, a retired cellist I remembered, waved a hand dismissively. "We must be direct. The scholarship is better given to someone with clear direction. Consider another path, a non-performance track. Teaching, maybe. But not performance, not here." He nudged a printed sheet toward me. "No envelope, no ceremony, just an official dismissal. Not this year, maybe not ever." The paper shook in my hand. I nodded, unable to speak. Somehow, I managed to gather my violin, mumbling a thank you. I closed the door behind me and made my way down the corridor, passing humming piano scales and sleep-deprived students, each more certain than I. The city outside absorbed me, every car horn and drenched umbrella reminding me I was alone in defeat. Back in Almagro, our flat was loud as always. My mother kneaded dough at the kitchen table, flour up to her elbows. Gaston, my brother, sprawled on the couch, face buried in his phone, TV humming a faded soap opera behind him. "You're early," Gaston muttered. He didn't look up. "They throw you out in the first round." I put my violin by the radiator, unclipped my wet coat, my fingers stiff. My mother's eyes met mine, trembling with concern. "You didn't get in." I shook my head. My father, hunched over bills in the window's dim light, just grunted. "That's the 3rd time, isn't it? Maybe it's time to look for something steadier." "Secretarial work, music's risky." It was meant to sound practical, not cruel. "They said you were too boring for Mendelssohn," Gaston snorted. "Better than being told you're out of tune, I guess." Within minutes, my aunt from upstairs was in our kitchen, launching into a monologue about her friend's daughter, a pharmacist now doing well in Switzerland. "Always shy, Lucia. Music takes courage. Maybe you're not built for it." She stirred the mate as she spoke. No one asked how it felt for the committee to dismiss all my years of practice with a word. Their skepticism hung heavy in the steam over the stove and the hum of the radiator. In our home, practical trades were celebrated, the rest quickly dismissed. I drifted through endless evenings, escaping with my violin into the cramped bathroom, the only space I could close myself away. I practiced quietly, desperate scales whispered under my breath, sonatas reduced to silent etudes beneath the fan. Sometimes I'd stare at the cracked grout for minutes, holding my breath, resisting the urge to smash my instrument. 2 weeks later, my mother asked as she chopped carrots for stew, "Will you apply next year, Lucia?" I felt something in me break, quietly final. I couldn't put myself through the committee's polite cruelty again. Failure felt as inevitable as breath. Still, I needed music like others needed air. That night, while my family slept, I browsed classifieds, gigs in cafes, on the street, whatever would pay a few pesos. I started wandering through San Telmo, violin on my back, letting the city swallow me in anonymous crowds. For months I played on corners, my cap open for coins. At first, humiliation burned, imagining the committee passing by or my mother's friend spotting me invisible beneath a brim. But there was freedom in the doing, dignity in persistence. I met other musicians, Brazilians with faded guitars, tangros, even an old Ukrainian accordionist. Their short advice about wrists, about audiences, taught me more than any lesson. I met Andres, a clarinetist, loose and laughing, who became my partner. We played duets for tips, split soggy korapan for lunch. He talked little about dreams. Music was his living, all that mattered. One sweaty March afternoon, after a street set, a woman watched us pack up. She wore linen, kindness in her voice. "You play well together." She handed Andres her card. "We have a small ensemble off Scala Brini Ortiz. Nothing fancy but serious." He winked, handed me the card, tu oportunidad Lucia. Marta Ruiz ran the Orquesta Nueva Vida, a modest chamber group, mostly small events, salons, private parties. Little glamour, but it paid, and suddenly there was a crack in the wall. Over dinner I told my family. Gaston laughed. A wedding band, like a clown's suit. My father just grunted, it's a job. My mother forced brightness, it might lead somewhere. They wondered when I'd tire of such small victories. But those little backroom concerts taught me what the committee called flame. Playing for inattentive strangers demanded conviction. I learned to read a room, trust my fellow musicians, let mistakes fade. Marta barked corrections over mate. Too careful, Maury soul, Lucia, the notes come last. I practiced late after my family slept, quiet now but focused. I found second-hand scores, studied them in dim light, Piazzolla and Bartok bleeding into my blood. My growth was silent, barely noticed by anyone but me. My family stopped asking. Years turned, friends married or left, seasons cycling through storm and sun. My fingers hardened, my back toughened. Music became a need, not a quest. I lived day to day, scraping by, always short of security. Then, one stormy evening after a rehearsal at the Ateneo, Marta joined me at the bus stop. There's an audition, she whispered. A conductor from Berlin holds auditions here, looking for a violinist who can handle Mozart and something new. I gave them your name. I gaped, why me? She smiled, sharp, now you have heat, don't overthink, just rest. Play. Those weeks I lived in a state between hope and fear. Everyone at the audition would have degrees, some still kept their old rejection letters in sight like talismans. When I told my mother, I saw hesitation give way to a new expression, pride or fear, I couldn't tell. It's in Europe, she asked. If I get it. She frowned, would you really go? I realized then, in the lonely hours of night, that I'd been leaving home in spirit for years, even as I kept returning. The audition hall in Recolta was bare. The German conductor, Albrecht, wiry with silvery hair, asked, what will you play? Usse's Sonata No. 3, I answered, heart racing. I played, fingers hot and slick with nerves, aware only of sound, bow, string, breath, the world narrowed to this one task. When I finished, he nodded, not smiling, and called for the next. The waiting ate at me. But a week later, Marta phoned, trembling with happiness. Berlin wants you, 3 weeks, 2 concerts, all paid, Lucia, you made it. The kitchen's air felt different, the city outside glowed. My father, hidden behind the paper, told me, remember where you come from. My mother hugged me hard. Gaston called out, don't return, with a weird accent. We ate wordlessly, the occasion pressing on us. Berlin was cold, shining. I drifted among rehearsals, dazed by unfamiliar words and a sharp, bright city. I found the musicians didn't care for credentials, only music, nothing else mattered. The concerts blurred into each other, bows and applause, and later in photos I seemed taller, unburdened. In January, an email arrived, an offer of a scholarship, not from Buenos Aires but through a German cultural center, thanks to Berlin. The story found the local papers. Local violinist succeeds abroad. My name became a whisper again. Now the phone started to ring, cousins, then Marta, then Andres, then neighbors. The city, so quick to doubt, remembered me. In March, 3 years after my committee rejection, I returned to Buenos Aires with a modest contract for the Teatro Colón Orchestra. Not a soloist, not famous, just a real working musician. Enough to rent a small room for myself, to send my mother a ticket, a cheap seat but with my name printed in small type. The theatre's marble lobby resonated with voices. On my first night as a member of the violin section, I watched the audience gather, politicians, teachers, and at the back, my family. My mother wore her old scarf. Gaston looked stiff in a dress shirt. My father's hair was brushed for the first time in years. Their doubts had faded, though they would never say it. I crossed the marble to greet them. My mother squeezed my hands. You look taller, she whispered, which meant she was proud. My father nodded, unable to smile. Gaston, for once, was lost for words and just grinned. I returned backstage. The curtains parted. As the lights went down and the conductor tapped his baton, the silence was thick, fragile, full of questions. I lifted my violin, unafraid for the first time. During a solo passage, I glimpsed my family in the audience, leaning forward. All those years, all those faces, now darkness, now anticipation. My notes wove through shadow and hope, each a reply to years of doubt. After the final bow, applause rose, a living thing, all heat. I left the stage on shaky legs, hugged by my mother, her cheeks wet. Gaston clapped too loudly, ignoring the looks around him. Even my father, man of careful words, pulled me into a clumsy embrace. Riding home through the night, my mother reached for my hand. "You did it, Lucia. For yourself." I looked out at the city lit by rain and lamps, feeling at last that I belonged, not as a star, not as a fool, but as a musician, real, grounded, present, held at last by the sound of my own return.